chances are you scanned one of these today, maybe on your coffee cup, a concert ticket, or to pull up a menu. You know, this little black and white square, the QR code. It's so common now we barely even think about it. But have you ever stopped and actually wondered where it came from? You might think, oh, it's some Silicon Valley thing from the 2000s, right? Well, the real story is, it's so much more surprising. It's a journey that spans almost 200 years, and it connects a heartbroken painter, an idea that was literally sketched on a beach, and a move from an ancient board game. All right, so to find the very first piece of this puzzle, we've got to go back. I mean, way back. Before computers, even before electricity was really a thing in most homes. Our story starts with a moment of real personal tragedy. Let me introduce you to Samuel Morse. Now, back in 1825, you wouldn't know him as an inventor. Nope, he was a successful painter. And while he was in Washington, D.C., working on a big commission, a letter arrived for him by horse messenger. The news was absolutely devastating. His wife had died suddenly right after giving birth. And because communication was so slow, by the time he frantically raced home, it was all over. He had already missed her funeral. Morse was just completely shattered. And that grief, that absolute heartbreak, it turned into an obsession. He became determined to find a way to send messages over huge distances almost instantly, so that no one else would have to go through that same agonizing wait he did. And that obsession, it led to this: Morse code. Think about it. This was the first real system for encoding complex information into a simple binary format, dots and dashes, that could zip across wires at the speed of light. Now, Morse solved his problem, but what he didn't know was that he had just laid the first essential brick for a technology that wouldn't show up for another 150 years. For over a century, Morse's code was all about sound. You know, the clicks of a telegraph. But the next big leap in our story happened when someone, thinking about a totally different problem, found a way to make those sounds visible. Okay, fast forward to 1948. We're on a beach in Miami with a young engineering student named N. Joseph Woodland. He was a former Boy Scout, so he knew Morse code by heart. And at the same time, he was mulling over this problem he'd heard about from a local grocer. Checkout lines were just painfully slow. They needed some way to automate it all. So picture this. He's just sitting there in the sand, and the language of dots and dashes he learned as a kid is rattling around in his head. And then it hits him. His big aha moment. He starts just drawing the code in the sand. But instead of taps, he drags his fingers, stretching the dots into thin lines and the dashes into thick ones. And right there, on the beach, the barcode was born, a visual, scannable version of Morse code. Pretty incredible, right? Now, the barcode, it totally revolutionized retail, no question, but it had its limits. As manufacturing got more and more complex, that one little line of information, well, it just wasn't cutting it anymore. The world needed to add another dimension. For a company like Toyota, this was a massive headache. On an assembly line, tracking just one car part could mean scanning multiple barcodes. It was slow, it was inefficient, and if a code got smudged, you were in trouble. They needed something better, faster, something that held way more data. And, this is key, something you could scan from any direction. And this brings us to 1994, over in Japan. An engineer named Masahiro Hara, who worked at a Toyota subsidiary called Denso Wave, got the job of solving this exact problem. His mission: create a code that was way faster and could hold a ton more information. Hara and his team knew they had to break free from that single one-dimensional line of the barcode. They needed to use 2 dimensions, height times width, to store the data. And their big inspiration, it didn't come from another piece of tech. It came from something much, much older. It came from the game of Go. Get this, Hara was playing during his lunch break, and he just looked down at the simple, elegant grid of black and white stones, and that was the breakthrough. That pattern on the grid gave him the idea for a 2-dimensional matrix. And from that insight, the quick response, or QR code, was born. And the leap forward was just enormous. By going 2D, Hara's code could be scanned from any angle. It had error correction built right in. And most importantly, the amount of data it could hold was on a completely different planet. So how different are we talking? Well, a single QR code can hold up to 4,296 letters and numbers. That's enough to store a short essay, a website link, and your contact info all at the same time. Let's just visualize that for a second, because it's kind of mind-blowing. A standard barcode holds about 20 characters. The QR code holds over 200 times more. This isn't just an improvement, it's a total revolution in how we store information visually. But here's the crazy thing. For years, the QR code was really just a tool for factories and warehouses. So how did it escape the assembly line and end up in all of our pockets? Well, a few key things had to fall into place. It really happened in 4 big steps. First, and this was critical, Denso Wave decided to release the patent for free. Anyone could use it. Second, the smartphone revolution put a powerful scanner in everyone's hand. Third, phone cameras started getting native integration, so you didn't even need a separate app anymore. And finally, the pandemic. It made contact everything a sudden necessity. And just like that, the factory tool became an everyday tool, powering everything from menus to payments. So when you trace it all back, you see this incredible, almost unbelievable thread. It all starts with a grieving husband's desperate need for speed. That inspires an engineer on a beach to turn sound into lines. And that, in turn, leads another engineer, inspired by a board game, to turn those lines into the little grid we use every single day. It's an amazing domino effect. So, the next time you scan one of these squares to pull up a menu or board a flight, what are you really looking at? What's the hidden story there? You're looking at so much more than just a piece of tech. You're seeing the end result of a 200-year-long relay race of human ingenuity. It's a story that proves how our deepest personal pains, our most playful moments of inspiration, and our simple drive to solve a problem can connect across centuries, creating a technology that quietly and completely changes the world.